Beijing. A city home to over 20 million people. A vast majority of Beijingers take public transportation to and from work, such as buses and subways. But some prefer taking taxis or private car services operating as taxis.
And at the core of it are the commuters. With Beijing's roads being heavily congested at least twice a day, never has it been more important to select the right kind of taxi service.
But the choices are abundant, and people don't just hail taxis off the streets now. With the advent of technology, they can hire private car services with the touch of a smartphone button. So we want to find out which services do people prefer, and then we want to see how those services work and which ones are the best to get you from point A to point B in the fastest and the cheapest possible manner.
There's a battle brewing between two private car services in China. The big player in the market at the moment is Dididache. As far as private car/taxi services go, they're the most well known.
你认识不认识滴滴打车吗？
认识，
认识滴滴打车。
认识啊，滴滴打车我用的，经常用。
But now there's competition in the form of Uber. They're already well established internationally, but in China they're facing threats of crackdowns. However, is this merely one of many challenges Uber faces here in China?
Uber taxi，你认识不认识？认识。
没有，没听过，不知道。
Heard of it, but I don't use it.
So how does Uber go from being virtually unheard of to gaining a foothold in the Chinese market? That's what we'll be asking here.
The comparison began with traditional taxi trips as a benchmark for cost. We chose Shuangjing and Sanlitun as our points A and B in Beijing. Point A to B in the morning during busy traffic, then back the other way through evening rush hour. Journey duration wasn't a comparison point, but the convenience of getting a taxi, the cost, and other factors people mentioned were.
If you don't speak Chinese, then it's quite difficult to get somewhere and actually to get a cab as well, sometimes. Because if you don't speak Chinese, then they won't know where to take you if you don't have it written down.
Yeah, some of the biggest complaints with the taxis is that they're rude.
Because they smoke in the car, they keep the window open when the PM 2.5 is at 500 and drive around with the window open.
Of course, there are many subjective elements, but our main parameters were convenience, how long it took to get a taxi, and the cost.
As far as hailing the taxi goes, we only had to wait for a few minutes before one came along. The driver, quite friendly and conversant, whom we asked about one thing, the issue of taxis often being empty and yet not stopping for someone trying to hail them, an issue brought up by many of the people we interviewed. And then we took the reverse journey. It did cost us more and took longer, but that was apparently to be expected.
So we had our cost base. 27 yuan, that's about $4 to travel in the morning, and 79 yuan, around $13 the other way back in the evening. And so, on to the next one. Dididache, the smartphone integrated application people can use to order private cars for short journeys. They've been well established in China for a number of years now, and they're interconnected with regular taxis. The benefits of using a smartphone to hit some buttons and summoning a vehicle to right where you are, well, they seemed obvious enough.
就是很方便吧，就是出门什么都特别方便，而且习惯。刚开始时候也是别人推荐，后来就习惯性的就开始用。
滴滴打车，因为它你发出一个请求，它响应率比较快，接单比较快。用了其他的打车软件，基本这是最快的。
因为方便。 还便宜。
方便呀，可以用手机叫。
就是很方便嘛，在
在家里没有出门之前，我就叫滴滴打车，他会到我家小区来接我，或者来我工作的办公室楼下来接我，就特别方便。
特别方便。我以前出去的时候经常是开车，但是我开了车可能会喝酒晚上，然后我要找一个代驾帮我把车开回家。
But for the uninitiated user, the application proved to be more than a challenge to register for. But with Dididache, there was another option, one that didn't require registration. We were able to use the application to get a regular taxi.
So around 7 minutes ago, we ordered our Dididache from our smartphone, and here it is. It's arrived. It's not a private car, but it's a Beijing taxi.
Later that afternoon, Daniel continued his attempts to register his bank account with Dididache so we could order a private car/taxi. A basic ability to read Chinese is a must here. But once the registration was done and a car booked for us, there was the simple matter of finding out where it was. As it turned out, it wasn't so simple.
Nope.
Okay,
nope.
so
57, 5K19, no. You can't see it.
okay, it looks like he's on the move. It looks like my guy is on the move. So I'll have to give him a call back.
Right.
我们现在在那个阿迪达斯的对面。He said it's such big traffic at this time, and there was there's a lot of cars parked on the side. It's almost impossible for him to be here. So he's told us to go to Jobazia, which is almost a 5-minute walk from the destination we originally.
We come the wrong way.
We need to head over here.
Huh. Okay.
Wait, we finally have our Dididache taxi.
How long did it take us?
Roughly 20 minutes.
At the end of the journey, the cost stood out as a major reason as to why people prefer using this application. Even people who hadn't tried these applications were interested by the cheaper prices.
What would you say if I was to tell you we've tested both of them out and they come out as cheaper compared to Beijing taxis? Is that something that would interest you?
Yes, it is.
Does that surprise you?
Yes, it does.
However, first-time users, especially foreigners, may have a complicated process before they can finally link their personal information.
Next, it's Uber Taxi. The American company has been successful in various places, but also had a number of roadblocks with traditional taxi services unhappy about their business being encroached on. There have been reports of taxi strikes in London, Mexico City, even Taiwan and India. In China, they're up against Dididache. For Uber, though, ever since they entered the Chinese market, beginning with Shanghai in 2013, there have been legal challenges. Their offices have been raided in Guangdong and then Chengdu. They've also been threatened with having their services cracked down on in Beijing.
Even though it's still early doors for Uber Taxi, its future in China still remains uncertain. So that's where Uber is in the market. But we looked at what the service had to offer to begin with. Could it compare with Dididache? Registration was simpler with Uber. The application is available in English, which gives it an edge over Dididache, especially with those among the expat population who don't speak Chinese. But again, the main thing we found was the comparatively cheaper price. So for those who don't speak Chinese, maybe ordering a car via Uber is simple, but knowing where to find it is not.
Our Uber taxi has arrived. We're in the same destination, Taikoo Li, Sanlitun, and it's very, very busy as we can see. But we found it and we're going to take it.
The ride itself, not really any different compared to Dididache or even a regular taxi, but compared with each other, neither Dididache nor Uber particularly stood out. The only thing Uber was offering was a cheaper tariff over Dididache, and that's just market economics according to the Uber driver.
你觉得为什么有部是比较便宜？
啊，因为为什么便宜？
对啊，
因为它刚进入中国市场，它肯定会拉一些客人来坐他的车子，
啊，吸引他们的感兴趣是吧？
对，如果说一旦这个东西很贵，就不会可能有这么多的乘客来坐这个车子。
但是你觉得将来有不会威胁Dididache的占有率？
对，那肯定，
那是肯定的。
The ifs and buts are ones that'll be eventually answered. As things stand, Uber offers one thing, private car for hire. Dididache offers that, as well as the choice of summoning an ordinary taxi with no additional charges. Uber has its application in English, so the English-speaking foreigners in China can use them. Alternatively, logistical arrangements with the individual drivers have to be communicated in Chinese.
To conclude, all three taxi services have advantages and disadvantages depending on your preferences. If you're looking for comfort and reliability, a private car hiring service is your best choice. However, the complications involved with registration and the usability of the applications may leave some customers sticking with the traditional form of taxi service. But is it all doom and gloom for Uber in China?
优步目前是在国内来讲，在中国来讲是最好的了。为什么我不加入别的，我加入优步？就优步这个很多方面很人性化。比如说发工资，1周发一次。
WeChat paying account, how to pay on WeChat. I'm really not sure how to do it, and in fact I'm not sure how to set one up, so that's maybe one drawback. You have to set up
Doesn't it have an option right there for you to maybe set up an account? Because usually when they ask you to log in through, that's just the way the internet works, really.
Yes.
They have an option to either log in or
yeah! Set a WeChat payment password that's different from Okay, so I have it at Beijing, the Jing, and then FK92 for his number plate. It shouldn't be hard to find.
Right. What'd you say? It's a white car. Should we actually be crossing? This is Beijing. What's life in Beijing without a little bit of jaywalking, eh? Let's catch up with Dan. Because if he leaves, the taxi leaves. Oh no, that's 0912. Yeah, this is not it. Yeah, So, false alarm there. 5K92. 5K92. We did literally just go around in a circle, so that wasn't ideal.